Welcome back to Chew on This. This is Ben. I have over 14 years of experience on Svalbard, plus 5 years of experience here in Lofoten. Today we're chewing on that and the fact that I have over 20 years of experience in cooking, and I want to share with you my experience and what I've learned in all of these years, and hopefully it can benefit you and what you want to do. The Svalbard Gap. Why I left Svalbard. It was a tax paradise. I was living there for over 14 years, paying a very, very low tax. It was amazing. It's a visa-free zone. So everyone is welcome because of the treaty. There was a treaty, the Svalbard Treaty, that was signed after World War II, I think in 1925, if I remember correctly. Most of the countries signed it, the US, Russia, many European countries. And this treaty gave everyone equal rights to access Svalbard, or Spitsbergen as it was called at that time. And then the Norwegians changed the name to Svalbard, and then they also got sovereignty over the islands. So that means basically that their laws are Norwegian, and Norway has the final say, but everybody has right to use it. And this makes a very interesting situation because you can go, it's like a tax haven in a way. You can go to Svalbard, you can just find work, you just work, you can go there, you can just start a business, and really no one can say anything. Of course, you have to follow the rules and the laws, but like where else in the world can you do that? There's not many places where you can just go and start a whole new life. Excuse me. So you have many people who end up there for a short time. It's very popular for Norwegians to go up and they stay like 1 year just to get the experience, and then they go back down to the mainland. But you have some people who've been living there for many, many years. I've known people who lived there for over 20 years. And I feel like the longer you can stay on Svalbard, the stronger you become mentally, physically, emotionally. It's just a very, very interesting place. And it's just, what can I say? There were many ups, many downs. I don't regret it. I don't regret it at all. It's just like, how can a guy, from Cleveland, Ohio, end up on Svalbard? And that's where I'm from. I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. My dad, my mom were born there. My dad's side of the family is like mixed between Slovenian. His father was from, not his father, but his father's father. His father was from Slovenia, and his mom's side was from France. And my mother's side is mixed with African American and Native Indian American. So I'm quite mixed with everything there. And I have 2 sisters, and then quite a nice family in Cleveland. But it's just, for me, Cleveland was never enough. I always wanted more. And I can remember being in high school, sitting in this social studies class, and like there was this huge map of the world, like right in the front, behind the teacher. And I would sit there and just look at this map and just dream about like traveling to all of these exotic places and what the people are like there, what the people are doing there, like what they eat. And for me, I'm from a very foodie family. My mom, it was like she had her own garden. She only ate fresh. She would go to the market every day and buy food. Like, it wasn't very normal to do that. Normally people would go to the supermarket, buy a lot of food, stock up the fridge, maybe once a week or twice a week or something like that. But my mom, she would go to the market every day, buy fresh food. And then my mom also loved to travel. She's been all over the world. She had a job with the airline, so she was able to fly quite cheaply, with buddy passes and this and that. So she went all over the world, and I guess I got this travel bug from her. She married a guy from Italy, and then she spent some time in Italy, and then like they lived in Cleveland also. He was living in Cleveland, and he was a construction worker. So he was with the union, so he made good money, decent job. And like me, I'm getting ready to finish high school. And I just remember thinking, like, what do I want to do with my life? And they both asked me, and I had no idea. Like, I never really felt, to be honest, I never really felt I belonged in Cleveland. And I always felt like I belonged somewhere else. And for me, I just feel like, because being mixed race, I feel it's like even harder than just being one race in the US. Like, and everything is black and white. And if you're black, you're black. And if you're white, you're white. But it's like when you're mixed, you never really fit in with anybody. Like, they never really accept you as black. They never really accept you as white. So you're always like fighting this, like, just trying to figure out who you are. And then I think also, I use a lot of energy on this, and I feel like I use too much energy. And I feel like overall in the US, we use way too much energy worried about color. Like, everything is about color, everything. And it's just like, why do we use so much energy on that? And then I started traveling around the world, and I see people don't even really care. Like, of course, you have people who are racist in other places, but people in most places don't define by color. They define by languages, by cultures. But why is it in the US it's only about color? And then, you know, everything, when we fill out any type of census or any type of paper for the government, is which race are you? Which this, which that? Like, are you black? Are you white? Are you Asian? Are you Hispanic? Are you this? And like, we use so much energy. Like, what's the point? Like, I really don't understand what the point of it is. So for me, I never really felt like I belonged. And I always longed to be somewhere else and somewhere far away from that place. And don't get me wrong, I love the US. It's a beautiful place. It's an amazing place. You have everything there. You have, you know, if you want the Arctic, you can go to Alaska, or even Minnesota is a bit cold, or Wisconsin. If you want tropical, you can go to Hawaii, you can go to Florida, you know, Texas, California. Yes, the US is an amazing place, but I just don't understand why we use so much energy on color and race and these type of things. So I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was a bit nervous about becoming an adult, like, you know, anxiety, like everybody else. You get used to just taking from your family. And like, I was like, I'm the only boy. So basically I was the golden boy. I'm the middle child. So the middle children are always forgotten, but being the only boy, I was kind of like, had a little bit of a special status, I guess. And excuse me, I grew up, excuse me. I grew up and my dad wasn't around much. So my mom and my dad divorced very early. I was only raised by my mom and two sisters. So I grew up with all women. And, you know, it's basically a matriarch. I grew up in a matriarch. And like, who was going to teach me how to do, you know, mechanical things or home maintenance things? And it just never really interested me. And like, I was more interested, I see my mom, how inspired she was about food and about cooking. She loved to cook. She loved to, you know, eat great food. And then it was also from my grandmother. My grandmother was an amazing cook. She definitely was a foodie. I remember going with her when I was younger. We would go, and it was in East Cleveland. And this is where they had these butchers who would, like, they had live chickens. And when they would butcher the chicken, you go order and they would butcher the chicken right there for you. So I remember going with her and we would get live chickens butchered and take home a live chicken. Like, how can you get any fresher than that? And I really don't understand why they stopped doing that. Like, I guess because they want to make everything a larger scale and, you know, more industrialized. But I think it's important with this small scale farming and to support local farms. Like, that's what we did. We had our garden. We would go to the West Side Market, buy fresh vegetables, fresh fruits every day. And yeah, it was not easy to leave Ohio because of my family, of course. I miss my family. I love my family. But it was also easy because I wanted to see the world. And then it came down to somehow being a chef or going to work with my stepfather in the union as a cement, like a cement mason. He worked with cement. So, you know, and I just really didn't enjoy so much doing this outdoor. They only work in the summer when it's warmer weathers, and then in the winter they get laid off. So then they get like paid, you know. So you kind of have the winters free, which would have been kind of nice. But I wasn't really a big fan of working outside like that. And I never thought to become a chef. Like, I never thought to do it as a job, but I always loved food, always loved to cook. My mom and my grandmother's my biggest food heroes. They were very passionate about food. So then I thought, why not? Why not go to cooking school and become a chef? And I'm happy I did. It was like the best thing I ever did, because I can't imagine myself working in some office, sitting there 8 hours, punching in a computer, and then go home. Like, that's not me. I'm not built like that. So I'm always moving, like I'm always in motion. Even now, like the cafe I have, I'm running around. It's quite a big cafe, but I'm averaging like 10,000 to 18,000 steps per day. So like I'm a very active, and I can't just sit at a desk. So I would just die if I had to sit in the cubicle. So just give me the kitchen. I love it. I went to culinary school in Pittsburgh, the Le Cordon Bleu School, which unfortunately closed down some years ago. So when I went there, it was called Pennsylvania Culinary. And then after, it changed to Le Cordon Bleu. And then after, it went bankrupt and it closed down. So unfortunately, it's not around anymore. Then I finished cooking school. I went back to Cleveland, and then I worked at a private club there inside of the Key Tower. It was like a private club for like lawyers and people in the city, bankers and things like that. So I developed my skills there. I worked with a very amazing chef. He was a big role model for me, Chef Jim. And then I also started to do my own things, because for me, I always wanted to do my own business. And I tried so many times, and I failed so many times. And I tried this cafe where, I partner with some guys, and it's just like I had to make many mistakes. But then eventually I started to figure things out. And then this is kind of how I ended up in Malaysian Borneo, because I decided, actually, I think it was before cooking school, I went and spent a year in Malaysia. I got accepted to a university there. I had some friends, because I've always had international friends, and I've hung out with many people in Cleveland, and like there were some guys, and actually I wanted to go to Africa, and that's why I was looking at this map and thinking of all the places I wanted to go, and I wanted to go to Africa. But I had some African friends who suggested, we don't suggest you go, it's very hard. And me, I was very naive and very innocent, excuse me, very naive, very innocent. So I guess they figured I would have gotten taken advantage of very easily. So they had friends in Malaysia, and then they recommended I apply to the university there. So then I got accepted. I went to the university, but I really didn't know what I wanted to study. Like, I wasn't really this kind of university kind of study guy. I mean, I didn't hate school, but I didn't really love it either. I just kind of did it because we had to do it. And then I just went because I just wanted to go to Malaysia. So I got accepted. It wasn't my first choice, but I got accepted into the accounting program. And for me, that's like office type work, and I'm not really built for that kind of work. So I didn't really enjoy it. But anyways, I was in Malaysia. I just stopped going to classes like after a few months, and I started to work. I worked in a Turkish restaurant, and I was actually a server. And then I was just watching these guys in the back, how much fun they were having. And this was like back in the 90s when people were smoking in the kitchen. So these guys were smoking in the kitchen, having fun, making these big doner kebabs, laughing. And then like I'm a server, like the other servers. And of course we're in the front and we have to be very serious and, straight and everything. So I'm looking like, man, these guys in the back are having all the fun. That's where I want to be. So I did that. And then I was almost there for a year. But then my mom was like, well, what are you doing? Like, are you in school? Are you doing this? I said, no, I'm just working and hanging out. But, the money wasn't that great. And it was more expensive for me to be there than it was to, I wasn't earning enough to actually cover everything. So I was kind of still asking for money from them because it was like the pay was very small. But anyways, she said, well, if you're not going to go to school, you have to come home. So then I went home after 1 year. But I had met someone there. So then we kind of fell in love and then we got married. So I brought her with me back to the US eventually, not straight away, but I came back. I went to school, culinary school. That's when I went to culinary school, when I came back from Malaysia. And then I brought my wife there, Ajija, my previous wife, and then we moved to Pittsburgh together. And that's where I was in culinary school. And it was very difficult, very young, very naive, but I did it. I brought her. I worked like 2 jobs, made as much money as I could to take care of my family. I remember like a good day for me was like being off from 1 job. And then of course, okay day would be working, like a perfect day would be off from every job, which was very rare. Okay day would be just to work 1 full-time job. But a normal day I'm working 2 full-time jobs. And then like I went back to Cleveland after school, and then I worked at a bakery. It was like a German bakery, very nice bakery. I really loved that place. And then I also worked at the club. So at nighttime, overnight, I was at a bakery, and during the daytime, I worked as a chef at a private club. Excuse me, just keep coughing. But to get back to that, I worked very hard, took care of my family. We had a child straight away, Amir. So I really had to lock in and get serious and focused, and I did that, and I took care of the family. And then we had twins after that, Alif and Layla. But it didn't work out well between Ajija and I. We just had clashing personalities. And she decided she eventually wanted to go back home, which, I was okay with. But at the same time, we kept trying to make it work. We didn't just give up so easily. So I actually followed her back to Malaysia, and we went there in 2005. So that's when I left the US. And I remember we had this house we rented. We had so much stuff, because especially Amir was the firstborn child. So we got so many toys, so many gifts from everybody. And we had his room, like everything was full. And we really didn't have to buy so many toys for the other ones because he had so much stuff. But when we left, we tried to sell everything because we could only take like a bag with 20 kilos or 40 pounds with us when we go. We couldn't take all of the things. So we tried to have a house sale. Nobody bought anything. And we got to the point where we had to leave and we had to throw everything out as garbage. And the saddest part was that when we threw everything out as garbage, people were like vultures coming in and they picked. I guess they knew we couldn't sell. We would have to throw it anyway. So they waited until we threw everything. They were picking like vultures through everything. But you know what? We left. 2005, we went to Malaysia, Malaysian Borneo, Sabah. That's where Ajija was from. And then I found a job there working as a chef at a culinary school, which was really nice. But I didn't get this expat package where you get like paid in US dollars and it's tax-free. I got a local package. So my salary was much lower, but we lived simple. We ate rice. Excuse me again. Oh, yeah, I have a cold, so it's not so easy. We ate rice. We kept it simple. Her father owned businesses, so they had houses. So we stayed at one of her houses, so it wasn't a big issue with the rent. And we really tried to make it work, but it wasn't meant to be. We just fought a lot and argued a lot. And I just decided I wanted to do my own thing, and she decided she wanted to do her own thing. So we worked together for the kids, did what was best for the kids. But this culinary school was really amazing. But for me, the challenge was that they paid late. And like for me, I understand getting paid peanuts, but at least pay me my peanuts on time. And the other people, they got paid much later than I did. So at least they tried to make an effort to pay me a little earlier, but it was still late. And of course, I understand now being a business person, I understand like if the money's not there, you can't pay. But when you're just a worker, you don't care. You want your money. You did your job. You want your money. But, after 3-4 months of getting paid late, I just didn't think that was the right option for me. So I decided to look for some other work, and I saw a job that said work in Antarctica. And I'm like, wow, like what is Antarctica? And then I researched, and there were like expedition cruise ships. They were looking for chefs and restaurant managers to go on ships around Antarctica. And I said, wow, this looks really cool. So I sent my resume or CV, and I didn't think anything about it. Like I didn't think that anything was going to come from it. And they called me back right away. And I thought, okay, this must be a scam. And they're like, oh, yes, we see you apply, and we're interested in you, and we would like to talk to you more, and blah, blah, blah. And are you interested in being head chef or sous chef? And like, I'm just like, haha, head chef, of course. Like, why would I want to be sous chef? Of course, they ask me, I'm going to say head chef. So then she said, okay. And there was like a little bit of delay, and they came back, and they said, okay, we want to hire you as head chef. I was like, okay. I still thought it was a scam. It's like, we will fly you to Cape Town, and then you sail with the ship to Ushuaia, and blah, blah, blah. And then you will do 4 or 5 months around Antarctica, and then we will fly you back home. I said, okay. So they flew me from Sabah, Malaysian Borneo, to Cape Town. I went with the ship. We repositioned it to Ushuaia, which is the southernmost city in the world, and Longyearbyen is the northernmost city in the world. So then we were in Ushuaia, and then from Ushuaia, it's a 2-day sail. Excuse me. It's a 2-day sail from Ushuaia to Antarctica. And then you sail around Antarctica for like 6 days, and then it's 2 days sail home. So the typical trips are 10 days, but then they have some longer trips that are 18 days or 24 days, just depending if you go to the Falkland Islands or South Georgia. You know, it just depends on what they sold for that trip. I did that for 4 to 5 months. It was amazing. It was a learning experience. I had a sous chef. There was 2 of us. And the ship was a Russian research vessel. And what they did was they sub-chartered these out to tour companies. So when the Russian institutes needed for research, they used it. But when they didn't need it, it was just a liability for them. It just cost them. So they would sub-charter it out to companies. And these companies would pay to have the rights to use the ship. But the crew was all Russian. So they took care of everything for the ship. And then the company would just take care of the passengers. And then they would hire chefs and hotel managers. So basically, I'm just the passenger on the ship. But I share the galley with the Russian cooks, but they cook for the crew. I only take care of the passengers, which was amazing. So that means that I wasn't crew. I didn't have any safety responsibilities. I could just do my job. I could go to the bar, I had a bar allowance. We got tips. It was amazing. Like my salary, I didn't even see it. It just went to the bank and we lived off of the tips. And then from there, the season finished. They said, oh, you did an amazing job. Do you want to go to the Arctic? So then they invited me to go to Svalbard, Spitsbergen, because they had 2 ships, one that went to Canadian Arctic and one that went to the Scandinavian Arctic. So they sent me to Svalbard and I was like, okay. So then they flew me back to Malaysian Borneo. I had like 2 months or 3 months break there. And then they flew me to Longyearbyen. And when I got to Longyearbyen, I was like, what is this place? It's just like, there's no trees, not much grass. It's like another planet. It's just rocks. And then the summer is not so cold. It's like the midnight sun. So it's always bright. But it was a very strange place. But anyways, I was on the ship. And this is why I left Ohio. Because I didn't like winters, actually. I don't like the cold weather. And I wanted to leave the cold weather and go to warm weather. Because for me, I do much better in warm weather. So when I went to Malaysian Borneo, I was happy. I feel I do much better in the warmer weather. Excuse me again. But then I went to Svalbard. It was only in the summer. See, we go to Antarctica in the summer and we go to Svalbard in the summer. And then, you know, it was amazing. And then before I went to Svalbard, actually, Ajija and I, we officially ended everything, I believe. That was during that time. So I was basically free man. I just took care of my kids. And then I met my wife now, Elena, when I went on the ship to work from Svalbard, and we worked on the same ship. And she was in the restaurant and I was in the kitchen. And for me, like, I fell in love straight away, but she didn't want to really be bothered with me, but I really was, you know, trying to woo her and to get her. And, you know, I even sailed back. I remember I sailed back to the ship because the crew had to reposition the ship back to the Netherlands. And I asked, oh, please, can I sail back? You know, by that time we were already together, and I said, can I sail back with her to Netherlands? So they gave me permission. Captain said it was okay. I sailed back, and then I flew home from the Netherlands. But, you know, somehow I told her that this place, Svalbard, is very special because I read about it, about the treaty, about everyone can go there and work and you don't need visas. And I told her we should go there. And she's from Russia, from Kaliningrad, which is quite a big city in Russia. And she said, no, I can never live in some place like this. Like, what is this place? And I said, well, you never know. Just think about it. So I planted the seed. And then somehow she got a job offer to work at a hotel there because the lady who managed the ship also had friends on Svalbard who were looking for help. So she recommended Elena. And then Elena got her job there. And then I also got a job there because when I went to Svalbard during this summer, there's hotels. I went into the hotel and I asked, do you need chefs? And then she went and got the manager. He came out straight away. And he interviewed me straight away and he hired me straight away. He gave me a contract for the next season, which started in March 2008. And this had to be in 2007 then. Excuse me. So then I got the contract from him. Like, it's just how things work. When you want something, you can get it. Like, nothing can stop you. When you decide something, the universe will make it possible for you. So then I got this contract for there. I went back to Malaysian Borneo. I went back and did one more Antarctic season. And then when I went to the Arctic in 2008, I was working at the Radisson Polar Hotel as a chef there, which was amazing. But I actually didn't want to go. I wanted to stay in Malaysia because I told you, I don't like the cold weather. And then I saw how cold actually Svalbard was, like minus 30 in the winter. Like, for somebody who doesn't like winter, why would I want to go to minus 30? So I actually told Elena, she was already basically there on her way to go. And I told her, no, I'm not going. It's too cold. I can't do it. She was so disappointed. She was so disappointed. And I felt so bad, you know, but like, if you know you don't like winter, why would you go to somewhere that's going to be minus 30? Then somehow I changed my mind. I figured I couldn't do her like that. So then I went to Svalbard. We eventually got back together. She was very upset, of course, so she didn't really even deal with me at first. But I went there only because of her and because I wanted to be with her. And then, like, I remember how cold it was when I first got there. It was so dark. Of course, it was like February, so still a bit dark. I would just run to work and run home. Like, I didn't even have the proper clothes. I was coming from Malaysia, Borneo. I didn't have all this winter stuff. Like, I would just run to work, run home. That was it. I didn't, like, just leave me alone. But then eventually I started to like this cold weather, and it grew on me. And then we had, somehow we had our daughter Vlasa, and then it became our home. And then we brought the other kids, because the kids from Malaysia, they eventually came to live with us on Svalbard. So it became our home. We bought a house there. We raised our family there. But then once our 3 other kids graduated, we only had Vlasa, we decided it was time to move down. So then we were looking for opportunities, especially during this COVID time. It got pretty complicated there with the business, and I was running a tour business, and then my company kind of went bankrupt. Excuse me. But then we were thinking to go back to the US. But after living on Svalbard for over 14 years, this time actually could apply if I moved to the mainland. So if I would have left and went to the United States, this whole 14 years would have just got thrown away. But because I came straight to Norway, then my time still applies. So I can use it to go for citizenship. And then now I'm just working on my language requirements. And I just think that this was the time, from all of that experience. When I came, I decided on Lofoten. I had some other options, Tromsø, there was an opportunity. There was an opportunity in Finnsnes. But I decided on coming to Lofoten because there was a restaurant called Heim Restaurant in Hemingway Lodge. They were looking for somebody to run it. And for me, I wanted to have my own restaurant. That was always my goal. Even on Svalbard, I was pushing to have my own restaurant. It didn't happen. It was very complicated. It didn't happen. But if I would have had my own restaurant there, then I think everything would have went much differently. But because I was doing food tours, we had a restaurant bus with Arctic tapas, the partnership didn't work, it didn't last. So everything became super complicated. So, you know, there's a time for everything, and it was a time to leave, and it was more about survival there. I took the opportunity to go to Lofoten at this new restaurant, Heim. I was the leader of the restaurant there. It was really nice. I learned so many things. I was able to get my work visa, experience. Like, we doubled it. Like, the first year, I think when I came, before I came, they had made 4 million. And then the year after that I worked there, we made 8 million. And then we almost doubled it again. The second year I worked there, we made 11 million. So we almost doubled it every year I was there. But I was looking more to have my own restaurant, and it didn't work out like that. It wasn't really becoming my own restaurant. So I decided to move on, and I was planning to leave Lofoten, and I was going to go somewhere else. But then I applied to a company, and they said, no, actually, we have a restaurant available in Leknes that you can take over. And it was this Jordbær Piken cafe. So then I said, yeah, that sounds really good. So I decided to take that over, and that's what I've been doing since. But I also wrote my book, Chew on This. And this has all of the experience that I've gained from all of these years. I've also built an AI digital twin coaching app that I'm using connected to the book. And I also am doing food tours here. And it's kind of similar to what I did on Svalbard with Arctic Tapas, but it's Arctic Bites. And it's about going, visiting the local producers. There's so many local producers here in Lofoten that it's just, you have to come experience it. And I feel just double checking here. Yeah, I feel that pretty much sums up for today. It's a lot of information to process, even a lot of feelings, a lot of emotions come up even as I say this. That's a lot to chew on for one day. If you want to see more, you can subscribe. There will be a 10-minute video coming this Friday on the channel. Let me know in the comments if you want to know more about my life in the North next, what you want to know next about my life in the North, and subscribe. And Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in Lofoten. Chew on that.